And how?
And good evening. Welcome to the broadcast on this March 17th, 2025. We're going to have David Pine with us. I don't know. We haven't been able to confirm the reports yet, but apparently there may be some U.S. ships steaming toward Iran. Again, we cannot confirm these reports, but certainly there are reports out there that the Trump administration and Pentagon is getting in position, if they need to take on Iran. Is this the right time to be doing this with all that's going on in the world? We'll talk to David Pine about that, along with where are we at with Russia and Ukraine. I think there's an important phone call coming up tomorrow. Let's see what David Pine has to say about that. Let's see. Then we're going to be joined by Usama Dakdok, Shahram Hadian, and Aaron Lavarco. Folks, we're this close to having a cancer in America that maybe cannot be cured, and that is the cancer of Islam. And if it can grow in Texas, then it can pretty well grow anywhere. The governor of Texas, he seems like he might be a guy that is full of a lot of hot air in reality. This is his chance to man up. He allowed the what was that called? The Colony Ridge or whatever it was. Is that what it's called, Logan, in Texas there? Colony Ridge. I mean, it's a massive area where they're letting a guy sell all of this property to these illegals. It's such a massive area that Michael Yawn and Todd Bensman have had to go up and survey it in a helicopter. We've known about it and reported about it now for how many years? What has the governor of Texas done? From what we can tell, nothing. Now he's saying, oh, we're not going to allow a Sharia compliant compound to be built in Texas. Sorry, too late, governor. It's well on its way. Now that imam who I've been taking on since 2010, Yasser Qadi, he's upset. He's upset that the Constitution might be under attack by Donald Trump. Really? An Islamist who's for Sharia, which is overthrowing the U.S. Constitution, now wants to use the Constitution to try to say all of these guys with green cards, they're having their constitutional rights violated. While this guy wants to actually destroy the very foundation of our constitutional republic. Hello. Let me tell you something, folks. I am so thankful we have President Donald Trump in the White House trying to do what he's doing. We better be praying for him. We better be supporting him. Our pastors had better be supporting him. But sadly, many of them have bought the interfaith dialogue claptrap that this is somehow giving the gospel. This is evangelism. The Lord has brought all these people to our country, so we don't have to go to them. Wrong-o. These are, many of them, terrorist, jihadist. They're for Sharia. They're pro-Hamas. If you don't want to see an October 7th event take place in America, you better stop supporting those kind of so-called pastors who aren't pastors, they're hirelings. And I'm sad to say that since I've been warning about Yasser Qadi since 2010, we've kind of been a lone voice in the wilderness. But now all of a sudden, Yasser Qadi's all over social media today by a bunch of people that want to tweet this. Well, thank you, but where have you been? 15 years too late? And that's the question. Are we too late? President Trump is only one man. He can only do so much. You know, he's human. I know he seems superhuman with the hours that he keeps, the things he does, the trials and tribulations the man can go through, and he keeps persevering. It's almost beyond human. But at the end of the day, he is human. And he's battling not only the courts that are trying to shut him down at every turn to restore the republic, to protect the republic. He's having to battle a bunch of false teachers claiming to be pastors. He's having to battle the media, the fake news. He's got so much on his plate. But my friends, if we don't fix this problem, it may be a problem that can't be fixed. At some point, it's just too much. You cannot clean it up. And I'm afraid the Islamists are taking over. And if they can take over Texas, I think they can pretty much take over any state. We'll get to that with Shahram, Usama, and Aaron Lavarco, our reporter on the ground from Israel. Because I'd like to ask him what Israel has learned. And you got to see some of the stuff we're going to show you tonight. Now, we'll also be joined by Tom Littleton. He's our religious Trojan horse reporter, because three major outlets that are really the big outlets where sadly a lot of Christians get their news media from: Christianity Today, Christian Post, and World Magazine. They've all pretty much gone progressive. That's why I wrote the book Religious Trojan Horse, The Coming Religious Reich, and Marxianity. Well, many of these anti-Trumpers in the, quote, Christian Protestant world, they've infiltrated many of these publications, many of the social justice warriors. We'll get to that tonight. Be very careful, folks. A lot is going on to try to hijack Christianity in America and to paint Christians that support Donald Trump as dangerous, Christian nationalist. They want to Christianize and take over and implement some kind of, theocracy in America. Don't fall into the trap. Understand what they're doing and avoid it. We'll get to all that and a lot more. Here we go. Take a look at this brand new website. And it is worldviewcoffee.shop. Brand new. Thank you, Jill. Beautiful job on this. Worldviewcoffee.shop. I've been drinking it. And why do I like it? Well, it tastes good, number one. But number two, it's not sprayed. It is organic. Coffee is one of the most sprayed foods. Worldviewcoffee.shop. I hope you'll check it out. You're going to buy coffee anyway. Why not buy it from a company that also gives us back a little percentage with each purchase? Worldviewcoffee.shop. While we're at it, because we're going to go to a lot of interviews tonight, and they're going to be long format interviews, not interrupted with commercials. Remember to go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check out all our sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check them all out. From Worldview Talk, which is where you get your free satellite phone when you sign up for a very reasonable monthly plan. They got the blankets to knock down the EMF. They've got the blankets you can put in your lap if you're going to work with a laptop so you're not zapping yourself. They've got solar generators. I have the Delta Echo 400. You can just go visit that site. In fact, some of you may want to just use the 800 number, particularly if you have questions about the solar generators. That number is 1-866-738-3224, 1-866-738-3224. Check them out, will you? And, of course, Bella Grace. I take it each and every day, Bella Grace. The collagen makes my hair grow. Ooh, love that. No cracked and bleeding hands. Nope, that stopped. Don't have to take a Pepsid. Haven't taken one since December of 2023, since getting on Bella Grace. I don't have to sleep sitting straight up. Cat's Claw. Got collagen with the peptides cut short so your body actually absorbs it. The Cat's Claw, the anti-inflammatory. A lot of our problems are inflammation related. By the way, that collagen's great for the lining of your gut to help stop leaky gut, which apparently my hands cracking and bleeding was related to that. That's all connected, Dr. Lucky says. And then there's astaxanthin, which crosses the brain-blood barrier. So check it out. Oh, by the way, when you go there, the MelissaHouseBG.com. It's not only the elixir that I love and we all love, but the skincare. Melissa loves the skincare, folks. Check that out. Now there's the weight management. Logan says you've lost how much, Logan? I tried to this weekend, but I lost 4 pounds. He's lost like 4 pounds in under a week. Is it curbing your appetite, Logan? He says it is. It stopped you from snacking? Mm-hmm. And so he loves it. But then again, there are all the other benefits that go along with the Bella Trim that includes, my little list from Melissa. Optimizing your insulin, regulating your blood glucose levels, lowers bad cholesterol, it raises your good cholesterol, helps normalize your blood pressure and overall cardiac health, improves your prebiotics, and lowers inflammation, backed by science. So Logan, Melissa are big on the Bella Trim. All right, there you go. Then the restorative sleep. I have the Bella Trim here. Nothing in it because we don't want Dolly to get a hold of it. That wouldn't be good. And we have the restorative sleep. That's also empty because we don't want you getting a hold of it. And but Melissa loves this because it helps her to stay awake, okay? So this is all natural, all of these. Go to melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. Let's go back to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. You can check out our water filter, worldviewwater.net, and so much more. All right, let's go to the Dolly cam real quick before we go to David Pine. Go to the Dolly cam. Everybody wants to see, how's Dolly? How's Dolly doing? Dolly had a good weekend. I studied pretty much all weekend so I could teach last night, Sunday night. But Dolly's good. She got on a walk. She did get to go on a walk. Didn't you, Dolly? Oh, you're stretching. Why we not have her centered? Why are we off? There we go. Oh, big stretch by Dolly, the studio dog. Yeah, you're a good girl, Dolly. Where are you going? Where are you going? Oh, all right. Look at that. She's leaving the studio. Dolly has left the building, people. Crowds, everybody settle down. Dolly has left the building. I don't know where she's going, but, you know, she can come and go, just so you know. She's not locked in the studio. She can come and go, and she'll probably be back. I don't know. She's learned how to open the door herself with her nose. We leave it cracked. Well, she's back already, everybody. There you go. Dolly is back in the building. What? Yeah, she's going back to her My Pillow. What were you checking on? Were you expecting a delivery from Amazon or something? Was it at the door? Were you looking for bones or pumpkin or banana? You love your banana with peanut butter, don't you? Or some pumpkin? I don't know. We got a lot of people that ask about Dolly. Yep, you get a lot of people inquiring about our studio dog, Dolly. Yep, she's a good girl. She's here. She's good. All right, let's see real quick. What else? Oh, hey, my study last night on Revelation chapter 13. Huge success. We got an article up about it already. Go over there. Take a look at this. Here we go. Go to worldviewtimes.com. Did you know we have a news site? I don't promote it nearly enough. worldviewtimes.com. There's already an article on this. The image and the mark of the beast, Revelation 13, unfolds before our eyes. Now, I'm not saying the mark of the beast system's here, but I think the system's being laid for it. But you know what's really fascinating? Revelation chapter 13, verse 15 says the false prophet is given power to grant breath to the image. I did a word study last night. I took you to the original Greek and show you the word breath can actually mean spirit, and it can also mean demonic spirit. We also see that in Acts 16, Acts 19, when the apostles actually encounter a girl that is demon possessed, and the word spirit is the same word used in the Greek for the word breath in Revelation 13, verse 15. So I think the false prophet actually is granted power to give a demonic spirit to the image that is set up in the temple. That's all in last night's show. We've already got an article on it. If you'd like to watch the show from last night, the TV show, the Bible study I do on Sunday nights, our church service, it's now available for you folks at worldviewtube.com, worldviewtube.com. You can watch it. We've already got up an article today about our radio show, which we're going to do it tonight with our guys, The Islamist Takeover of America, a warning decades in the making. So don't neglect all the articles. We have worldviewradio.com, which is obviously radio. We have worldviewtube.com, which is obviously TV. And we have worldviewtimes.com, which is all obviously articles. Now, all you got to do is, Logan's making a good point. If you get to one of the pages, like let's just go to Worldview, Worldview News right there. All the tabs at the top. So you get to one, you're really on all of them. All right. Now, before we go to David, let me come back here and see if there's anything else we need. Let's see. Well, I think I better play this real quick. Here is Carrie Lake. Carrie Lake is settling in at Voice of America. I think this group may be abolished pretty quick. But apparently, billions of dollars found being wasted there. Listen to this.
Hi, America. I'm here in Washington, D.C. as Senior Advisor at United States Agency for Global Media. I'm working on behalf of you and President Trump and his administration. And I have been on the job for a couple of weeks now, and I'm horrified by some of the things I'm learning about this agency. I'm sitting here on the 13th floor of a shiny, brand new, beautiful skyscraper building that is costing you, the taxpayer, taxpayer a fortune. The Biden administration folks who were running this agency before, right before they left office, signed a brand new lease for this building, a 15-year lease that's going to cost the taxpayer nearly $250 million. Here's the kicker. They already have a building that they're located in that is paid off, that they could have renovated or updated, but they chose instead to get us into a lease that's costing the taxpayer a fortune. I know that every one of you out there is working hard and parting with your tax dollars. You're expecting it to be used wisely, not misused and mismanaged. And I can tell you that this building is a colossal waste of money. Take a look at what's in this building. Fancy conference rooms with wall-to-wall windows. There's 26 conference rooms, at least, that's what I've counted, in this building. There are 4 bridges to nowhere, massive waterfalls, Italian marble finishes everywhere, leather furnishings, all of this being paid for by the American taxpayer. And it's not the only thing we've seen. We are seeing grants where they've taken the grants and they've changed the contracts just days before we got in here to make it less transparent for us to find out where the money's going and what's happening with these grantees. It was an obvious sign that they wanted to keep us from finding out anything that we could possibly go in and change and make better for the American taxpayer. I want you to know I'm hard at work here in Washington, D.C. I'm working to make sure that we are not being bilked out of our hard-earned dollars. And we're going to make sure we're doing everything we can to cancel contracts that can be canceled, save money, downsize, and make sure there's no misuse of your dollars.
Wow. So let me get this straight. Billions of dollars? Are you kidding me? Oh, what a shocker, right, folks? You and I all knew this was going on for years. We just needed someone to get in there and find it. And this is now happening. So how does this game work? Hey, you get some big hedge fund or some big group or some big well-known guy or organization, buy a building in D.C., and then we'll get the government to rent it from you for billions of dollars over a multi-year contract. Really? Is this how the game is played in Washington? And why do they not want you to know who the money's going to? Folks, we have been robbed financially for decades and decades. And in fact, I have an article over at worldviewtimes.com. Let me go there. And I'm sorry, Worldview Report, worldviewreport.com. I have a new article over there that I put up. I can't remember who wrote it. Let me find it. There it is. Right, it is. The endlessness of a temporary tax from the Burning Platform. They're going into how, a lot of these taxes are supposed to be just temporary, but they went on for years and years and years, bilking the American people, raping us financially. You go back in history and you see like some of these people that are really wealthy. I love Andrew Jackson. I don't agree with everything Andrew Jackson did, but he's one of my more favorite presidents, taking on the central bank, warning about the bankers, right? And I like him because he was warning about the dangers of a central bank and how this whole cabal is built to steal from us. And when I went to his home at the Hermitage in outside of Nashville, I said to my wife, one reason a lot of these guys were so wealthy, some of them had free labor in the form of slaves, so that helps. But the other reason is they weren't paying federal taxes. You go back to some of these guys, no wonder they could have become worth so much. Today, most of us, between state taxes and federal taxes and hidden taxes, are giving away about half our income a year. I mean, if you live in a state like I do, Tennessee, with no state income tax, I still have a 9.5% sales tax. I still have corporate tax. But you total up how much money you have spent in taxes in the last 10 years. And then think about what you could do with that money. Like, I don't know, buy a rental property, buy a couple rental properties, have positive cash flow, pay off your house super fast, then take that money and put it into something else to invest. Think of all the money you've spent on Social Security that you could have invested so much better. And yet, we now find out why they wanted to do this. And it's because, well, it's how they launder the money and enrich themselves. and it needs to stop. And maybe Donald Trump will stop it. Apparently, his Commerce Secretary is saying, we'd like to make it, President Trump would like to make it where anyone making under $150,000 a year pays no tax. I think we should make it where nobody pays federal income tax. Zero. Because clearly we're watching, if we bring in about $5 trillion with federal income tax, they're clearly squandering away all that money. They don't need it. They're only using it to enrich themselves and their special interest. Just as Frederick Bastiat warned in his classic book, The Law. So anyway, don't forget, we have all these great articles over at worldviewreport.com, worldviewreport.com. We got a lot to get to with no commercials because we're brought to you by you from our sponsors and worldviewfoundation.com. So let's do a long format interview. Here we go. All right, joining me now is David Pine. Boy, there is a lot that happened since we were last on the air Friday. Let's see if we can bring you up to speed with Russia and Ukraine and the Houthis and all the strikes that were made by the president over the weekend. Joining me now is one of our national security experts, David Pine. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brandon. Good to be with you today.
Great. Hope you had a good weekend. Let's go right away to the Iran Observer. Here's what they put out. Yemen confirmed that it launched 18 ballistic missiles against the U.S. Truman aircraft carrier. No mention of dead leaders, while the U.S. claims to have hit Houthi leaders. All right. 18. Obviously, they didn't make contact with the ship. I mean, we must have some pretty amazing anti-ballistic missile stuff on those ships, do we not?
We do, and just to alert your viewers, these are advanced anti-ship ballistic missiles that we've never encountered in combat before. In fact, this may be the only combat usage of anti-ship ballistic missiles in history.
Wait a minute, let me just stop you right there. You're telling me that our aircraft, the U.S. Truman aircraft carrier, just encountered something for the first time in military history?
No, it was encountered last year during the Biden administration. Is when we first started having these exchanges with the Houthis.
Okay, so but it still is fairly new then.
Yeah, it happened for the first time last year in our exchanges in the Red Sea. So it is a very effective and dangerous missile that even like one or two, I think, could potentially sink one of our destroyers.
18 shot at them. 18.
Yeah, 18 had a carrier strike group. So thankfully we shot them all down. I'd only seen 10 reported, but it's possible it could have been up to 18.
Well, let's see what President Trump says about this. He says, "Let nobody be fooled. The hundreds of attacks being made by the Houthi, by Houthi, the sinister mobsters and thugs based in Yemen, who are hated by the Yemeni people, all emanate from and are created by Iran. Any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that that force will stop there. Iran has played the innocent victim of rogue terrorists from which they've lost control. But they haven't lost control. They're dictating every move, giving them the weapons, supplying them with money and highly sophisticated military equipment, and even so-called intelligence. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire." Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Now, I cannot confirm, but there are reports that there may be some of our aircraft headed toward Iran, maybe possibly preparing for strikes, because one of the leaders of Iran, he's not backing down. Here we go. This is Russia Today. Yemen retaliates with attack on U.S. aircraft carrier. Okay, we got that. But listen, we will not hesitate to target all U.S. warships in the Red Sea and Arabian Sea. I think there's going to be some, underscore reading here to do, folks. The transcript. Here we go.
شن العدو الأمريكي عدوانا سافرا على بلدنا خلال الساعات الماضية بأكثر من 47 غارة جوية استهدفت مناطق عدة في محافظات صنعاء وصعدة والبيضاء وحجة وضمار ومارب والجوف. وارتكب العدو الأمريكي عددا من المجازر، حيث أدى هذا العدوان إلى استشهاد وجرح العشرات في حصيلة غير نهائية. وردا على هذا العدوان نفذت القوات المسلحة بعون الله تعالى عملية عسكرية نوعية استهدفت من خلالها حاملة الطائرات الأمريكية USS هاري ترومان والقطع الحربية التابعة لها شمالي البحر الأحمر، وذلك ب18 صاروخا باليستيا ومجنحا وطائرة مسيرة في عملية مشتركة نفذتها القوة الصاروخية وكذلك سلاح الجو المسير والقوات البحرية.
All right, so there you go. That's what they're saying. And apparently none of them landed on that aircraft carrier, didn't do any damage. But President Trump is saying, you keep this up, we're going to retaliate. What do you think is being set up here? What are we headed toward, David?
Well, first, let me point out that I believe those, anti-ship ballistic missiles are likely hypersonic missiles. So, if indeed they were fairly accurate, which they may not be, this demonstrates, pretty good, air defense or missile defense capability by our carrier strike groups. But this is a very dangerous game that the president is playing, because in my assessment and in the assessment of Dr. Peter Pry and James Woolsey, former CIA director, Iran has had nuclear weapons for nearly a decade now, at least. And, the idea that we would strike a nuclear power directly with, air or missile strikes carries with it, of course, the risk of nuclear EMP war at a time that China is likely primed to blockade and potentially invade Taiwan in mere weeks. The Trump gambit of making peace with Russia and forging a new strategic partnership with Russia, to counter China is way behind schedule. It's proceeding at a snail's pace. Thankfully, there's another Trump-Putin call tomorrow. That could make, substantial progress if Trump decides rightly that he the U.S. should negotiate a peace deal directly with Russia and leave Ukraine and the EU out. But it's things. Now's not the time to be, trigger happy when it comes to Iran or China. We have to keep the world, pacified until we can successfully neutralize the Sino-Russian alliance.
Okay, so you're kind of going where I think we have warned about. My concern is that President Trump would be elected, not they'd be elected. My concern was that once he was elected, that there would be the desire to have Trump overwhelmed with so many things and potentially setting up World War III, a war in the Middle East, a war with Iran, triggering China against Taiwan, China against the Philippines. I mean, now you've got communists in place in South Korea, wanting to basically partner up with North Korea. Gordon Chang is warning about that. We've got problems all over this globe, and we can't have them all going off at the same time. Our military cannot handle that. President Trump needs to build back up the military. We cannot handle that. Plus, weren't we giving away a bunch of our armaments during the Biden regime to Ukraine? And they're talking about months or years to replenish some of that, David. So my concern is, A, is that true? And B, aren't these the hot spots we've been warning about around the globe and being triggered at one time?
Yeah, unfortunately, President Trump, through no fault of his own, inherited, a world on fire left from Joe Biden's failed and disastrous foreign policy. I don't think it was related to, the failure in Afghanistan, but I think it would have happened anyway under Biden. But, especially in Ukraine and the Middle East, we have two regional wars that continue to be raging. In Israel, of course, the Gaza war is under a temporary ceasefire, but it looks like Israel is likely to break that and resume the war with U.S. support. But Iran is a formal member of the Sino-Russian alliance. A lot of people don't realize that. It has a formal military, kind of mutual defense pact arrangements with both Beijing and Moscow. So if the U.S. were to hit Iran directly and brazenly, with some kind of major air and or missile attack, it could bring in Russia and China in the war against us. And we could be embroiled in World War III. And, I just can't overemphasize the fact that China is primed and ready to invade Taiwan, and April is, early April is literally the second best time of the year to do so. I mean, October I think is a little bit better, but April is really a great time for them to stage an amphibious invasion, and the scale of their preparations is just beyond belief. I mean, we've seen nothing like it since the weeks preceding the U.S. invasion of Normandy, France in 1944. So, we have to speed up the negotiations with Russia to end the war in Ukraine, neutralize the Sino-Russian alliance with some kind of mutual security agreement with Moscow. But we have to hold down the fort in the Middle East. We can't. Now is not the time to be escalating against Iran. If Trump wants to continue bombing the Houthis, I don't see a problem with that, except that it wastes away our missile strike capability that we need to deter China from attacking Taiwan. As you mentioned, we've given away the store. We unilaterally disarmed the U.S. military in transferring massive amounts of advanced weapon systems and munitions to Ukraine, which it will take up to a decade to replenish.
Look at this here. Look at this here. I don't think President Trump is foolish enough to give in to neocon calls to start a nuclear EMP war with Iran. Laura Logan saying, breaking, Iran's Revolutionary Guards have put all missile forces on full alert. A joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran is possible. U.S. troops near Yemen are on high alert. Netanyahu has entered the operations room. Trump warns Iran will be responsible if the Houthis retaliate for the Yemen attack. U.S. MQ-4C Triton drone has been surveilling Iran's Bushehr nuclear site for hours. Growing chatter suggests something major is unfolding over Iran. You want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, my estimation is if we were to engage in this kind of massive, or major missile strike against Iran, for the first time with U.S. missile strikes, I think Iran would disclose that it's a nuclear power with probably dozens of nuclear-armed missiles, potentially even ICBM level range, but mostly, medium to intermediate range. They may or may not choose to disclose they have two super EMP satellites over the U.S., which they could use to take out all of our critical infrastructure within minutes without any warning whatsoever. So, a war with Iran is an existential threat to the United States of America, and hopefully Trump realizes that and all of this is just posturing and no actual U.S. military direct strikes against Iran are being planned.
Wow. Okay. So I guess we're going to have to keep obviously a close eye on this and see where we go with this. But this again is where I go back to where people say America is so back. I'm like, people, I don't know what you mean by America is so back. We are in a more dangerous time than we've been in a long time. We were at a most dangerous time under the Biden regime since the Cold War. And we may be at a more dangerous time now than we were in the Biden regime because we actually have someone in the White House that will engage these people. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't be a strong commander in chief and he shouldn't be doing the things he's doing, but Biden was a puppet. And now we got a guy in there who's not going to be pushed around. And that may mean that the level of threat to the country is actually higher now than when Biden was in. That's no insult toward the president. It's simply stating the reality that the enemies want to engage the country. There are globalists and there is the red-green axis that wants to bring down America. And I think they would rather do something on Trump's watch so they can use it to damage Donald Trump. So I think there's more reason for them to go after us when Trump's in office, not Biden. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think you're mostly right. I think the threat is actually lessened, certainly from Russia, because Putin has no incentive to attack the United States while negotiations with Russia are underway, which will essentially give them everything they've wanted since 1989, which, well, other than being part of the Common House economic union with the EU, But in terms of the security architecture of Europe, I think Trump's fully on board with withdrawing U.S. troops from Eastern Europe, at least reducing U.S. ground troops to 2020 or 21 levels that were in place when he was president, which is about 37% reduction to current levels, as well as ending the war in Ukraine on mostly Russian terms. I don't see any chance of Trump agreeing to, give any Ukrainian territory to Russia that they don't already control. So on that front, I think the threat's lessened, but there's still a threat. The neocons have been pushing, Trump. I think Rubio and Waltz in particular, behind the scenes, to potentially sabotage a Trump peace deal with Russia by, insisting on terms that are unacceptable to them, in support of Ukraine. So if that's the case, we can absolutely push the Russians back into willingness to aid China in a massive cyber attack in the U.S. In the event that Trump decides to defend Taiwan militarily from a Chinese blockade or invasion. So that's still as I like to say, nuclear World War III is still on the table or still on the menu, even with Trump as president. So
in some ways, in some areas we're better. But in other areas, we're either the same or we're maybe a little more dangerous because of the globalists that want to engage something here to throw off Donald Trump, to make his polls collapse, to disrupt his agenda on the home front, on the national level, and then of course the desire maybe by some of these other Islamic groups who see their 12th Imam coming through great chaos. So depending, I guess, on what we're talking about, it's either less, about the same, or greater in the danger from the Biden regime. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. With regards to China, I think the risk of war in terms of Trump reacting badly to a Chinese invasion are less because, he's demonstrated a desire to avoid World War III at all costs. So I think his gut desire would be to negotiate a peace deal to avert war if China began invading or blockading Taiwan. But at the same time, the Chinese know that as well. So the Chinese are actually more inclined to invade or blockade Taiwan, knowing that Trump is less likely to defend them militarily. So the chances of war, in a sense, are increased because the Chinese are more likely to, overall, because the Chinese are more likely to make a move. In the Middle East, I think Trump is always, that's the one theater I think that Trump has always been a little bit too bellicose on, as demonstrated during his first term and also this term as well. He attacked Syria for chemical weapons attacks, which were disputed. There's some, but not really a lot of hard evidence that they even did it. And even if they did, it's not really, it wasn't really an existential threat to the U.S. or any of its allies. We shouldn't have been involved in the Syrian civil war in the first place, and now we have an al-Qaeda regime that's mass murdering Christians and other minorities in Syria. But with regards to Iran, Trump proved, he actually refused the neocon calls to strike Iran directly in response to their missile strikes following his assassination of the IRGC commanding general, I think back around 2019. So if he follows that course of refusing to attack Iran directly, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, let's go see what the Iranian leader, the Khomeini, is saying. Let's hear what he has to say here, guys.
اینی که رئیس جمهور آمریکا میگه ما آماده هستیم با ایران مذاکره کنیم و دعوت به مذاکره و ادعا میکنه که نامه‌ای فرستاده که البته به ما نرسیده، به من یعنی نرسیده. این به نظر من این فریب افکار عمومی دنیاست. این معناش این است که ما اهل مذاکره میخوایم مذاکره کنیم، صلح کنیم، دعوا نباشه. ایران حاضر به مذاکره نیست. خب ایران چرا حاضر به مذاکره نیست؟ به خودتون برگردید. ما نشستیم چند سال مذاکره کردیم. همین شخص مذاکره تمام شده، کامل شده، امضا شده رو از میز بیرون انداخت، پاره کرد. با این آدم چجور میشه مذاکره کرد؟ در مذاکره باید انسان مطمئن باشه طرف مقابل به اونچه که متعهد شد عمل خواهد کرد. وقتی میدونیم عمل نمیکنه چه مذاکره؟
All right, well, there you go. So I guess Iran is not coming to the table anytime soon, so they're continuing that push. All right, let's go to this article right here. U.S. Army tests Ukrainian long-range kamikaze drones under classified project. The Pentagon's innovation unit has evaluated Ukrainian-made loitering munitions designed to operate in GPS-denied environments and carry multiple payload types. Okay, wait a minute. Why are we doing this, David?
Well, let's hope that we're not doing that. I mean, I think Trump was just so brilliant to pull all U.S. military aid and intelligence aid, other than defensive intelligence, to Ukraine. I think that's what we should have done in the first place. If I had been president and Russia invaded Ukraine, first of all, it never would have happened like Trump. I would have simply said that Ukraine's never joining NATO, so they never would have invaded in the first place. But if they had, I would have only given defense intelligence, non-lethal military assistance to Ukraine. We never should have sent a single weapon or a single bullet to Ukraine. We never should have given them any targeting information for offensive weapons. And unfortunately, Trump was persuaded by the neocons to lift those restrictions and, restore U.S. military aid and offensive intelligence assistance other than, long-range missile strikes into Russia. And we've done so getting nothing in return. I mean, we got an empty promise that, Zelensky wants a ceasefire. I mean, that's absurd. He's been militant against a ceasefire. He threw a tantrum in the White House because President Trump and Vice President Vance asked him to support a ceasefire over and over again. He refused every time behind the cameras. Ukraine has not made a single concession, not one concession since Trump became president that would bring us closer to peace with Russia in terms of, peace terms. They've said the Russians have to withdraw from all of, formerly Ukrainian territory, including Crimea. Putin has to surrender himself on bogus war crimes tribunals for a crime that Russia never even committed. They have to provide $300 billion in reparations. They have to accept, up to 200,000 NATO peacekeepers along the front line so that any future Russian attacks will start World War III. I mean, right down the list, everything that Zelensky says, at least 3 or 4 major points, are completely unacceptable to Russia. So the idea that we would restore military aid with him being so adamant and militant against Trump's signature peace initiative of peace with Russia is quite frankly absurd.
Let's go to, I think there was the first Pentagon briefing today in the new Trump administration, correct?
Well, I know that Hegseth's given, multiple comments so far. I don't know that his. I wasn't aware that there was his spokesman had given a press conference.
Yeah, I think they did. That was just today. They said, at least what I read was this is the first briefing we've gotten from his Pentagon outside of himself. Take a listen to this, please.
The initial wave of strikes hit over 30 targets at multiple locations, degrading a variety of Houthi capabilities. These included terrorist training sites, unmanned aerial vehicle infrastructure, weapons manufacturing capabilities, and weapons storage facilities. It also included a number of command and control centers, including a terrorist compound where we know several senior Houthi unmanned aerial vehicle experts were located. On Sunday, strike operations continued against additional headquarters locations, weapons storage facilities, as well as detection capabilities that have been used to threaten maritime shipping in the past. Today, the operation continues, and it will continue in the coming days until we achieve the president's objectives. It's a much broader set of targets that we've been able to action in this case, and the other key differences are the delegation of authorities from the president through Secretary Hegseth down to the operational commander. So that allows us to achieve a tempo of operations where we can react to opportunities that we see on the battlefield in order to continue to put pressure on the Houthis. We have some initial estimates. I hesitate to say what they are because they're very much estimates at this point, but I think in terms of dozens might be a safe overall characterization. On the civilian casualty side, no indications of any civilian casualties. We, of course, have seen some of the accusations by the Houthis. We look at those closely when they do come in, but we have no credible indications of any civilian casualties. Houthis claim to have tried to attack the Harry S. Truman. Quite frankly, it's hard to tell because while we're executing precision strikes, they missed by over 100 miles. I would just tell you their effectiveness, I would question anything that they claim in the press that they're doing or not doing. The Bashad is not currently being used for those operations, but we do know that other vessels are contemplated for those sorts of operations. We're watching very closely to see if they return to the AO.
Very interesting, David.
Yeah, I think the thing we need to keep in mind here is that the U.S. Navy was unable to win a war against the Houthis during the past, 14, 15 odd months. What makes us confident that we can win a war against the Houthis today without an insertion of massive amounts of U.S. ground force? I think the chances of that are very slim. So. While this is good PR, to degrade the Houthis, to decapitate some of their leadership, I think it's not going to succeed. I don't think it's going to succeed in reducing their military capabilities by any substantial degree. And so we have to, as Putin likes to say, we have to look at the root causes of the conflict. Why are the Houthis engaging in these attacks? And the answer is because the Israel-Gaza war is not in a satisfactory state of resolution, meaning that the Israelis are not following through on their end in terms of beginning the second phase of the ceasefire, which is negotiating a post-war settlement in which the Hamas would be out of power, but Israeli troops would not remain occupying Gaza, and Gaza would be administrated by a Palestinian Authority, perhaps with Arab peacekeeping troops. So, that's a solution to end the conflict with the Houthis. It's much more effective than hurling dozens of more tomahawks against them. Another part of the solution would be to withdraw all U.S. troops from Iraq and Syria. That's in the U.S. national security interests. Our troops there are in too few numbers to be an effective deterrent. In fact, they're essentially a tripwire to a larger regional war with Iran. So Trump's made, he's declared a desire to withdraw those troops over the past 6+ years. I think he ought to make good on doing so now. And we can retain a military presence in the region, principally in the Red Sea and whatnot. But again, the way to end this conflict and quote unquote defeat the Houthis, it's not a military solution. It's a diplomatic one, I think.
And then let's go to this one. You talk about the president of Hungary, Viktor Orban. He announced the rainbow colored global empire, which is exactly what the U.S. was under Biden. No more. President Trump is dismantling America's liberal empire and supporting freedom across the world. Viktor Orban is one of the few guys. He's kind of the Trump version in Hungary. And, of course, he's been speaking out against these guys for some time. What is it he's now warning about?
Well, what he's saying is, the EU has been pressuring Hungary, of course, to, abandon its refusal to get on board with the war in Ukraine. It's accusing Orban of having an illiberal, government, democratically elected, but somehow autocratic. In fact, the truth is the exact inverse. It's the EU countries that are, socialist regimes that are, trying to start nuclear war with Russia that are, in fact, the regimes that are crushing democracy and freedom. Germany, of course, we saw that with the AfD trying to classify the only conservative nationalist party since before Hitler came to power in Germany as somehow, being investigated for extremism when in fact they're quite mainstream, conservative nationalist party along the lines of Trump's Republican Party today. Then, of course, in Romania, we've seen the leading presidential candidate or first place finisher in the presidential election that was canceled by the Romanian higher constitutional court. He's been arrested. He's been banned from posting on social media, essentially taken out of the running. That's what Putin does in Russia, and that's that's what the EU governments are they're adopting Putin's methods in an attempt to to crush conservatism and freedom in the EU.
Excellent. David Pine, it's dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. David, our national security expert, we sure appreciate all your analysis, David.
Thanks, Brandon. Always a pleasure.
You too, my friend. dpine.substack.com, D and then PYNE.substack.com. He also works with the EMP Task Force. Their website is emptaskforce.us, emptaskforce.us. All right, don't forget, we're coming to Milwaukee. Take a look at the screen right here. Coming to Milwaukee on April 15th. That's a Tuesday night. It's filling fast. We've got about 900 of the tickets gone now. They're free, but you got to register. worldviewtube.com/events. worldviewtube.com/events. It's free, but you got to register. Use your email to register everybody individually. You can use the same email multiple times, but you got to register each individual so we can count them as a chair. So we have enough chairs in the auditorium, okay? Tweet it, text it, email, Facebook, Getter, Truth Social, whatever you do. Let's fill the bottom and the top of this Waukesha Expo Center just outside of Milwaukee. President Reagan did a rally in there. President Trump's done 2 rallies in there. It's a great venue. I've been using that venue and going there since 1996. It's a great venue. So please spread the word far and wide. It is free. Myself, Dr. Andy Woods, Aaron Lavarco, our reporter on the ground from Israel, will be in the building. It's free, 6:30 to 9:30. 6:30 to 9:30. We will take an offering with our foundation to offset the costs. So please come prepared to be very generous so we at least break even. I think renting the building is going to be like $4,000 between the building and everything. We have to pay $2 a chair. So if we put out 1,000 chairs, that's $2,000. Plus we have the rental of the building itself. So come prepared to write a check to the foundation if you can. But other than that, it is free. I think cash probably works too. And we'll have some books that we'll bring with us for those of you who are asking. Yep. And I think some of the other speakers will have some things you can buy and visit with them, talk to them, get a picture with them, whatever you want to do. You guys will love it. It's going to be great. This will be our first time to do a Worldview Weekend rally in 7 years. So we're getting back out there, folks, and look forward to seeing a lot of you in person. So spread the word far and wide. Now, don't forget, go over to worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. There you'll find out about our fall conference coming up this fall, October 3rd and 4th. That's a Friday night and a Saturday with myself, Alex Newman, Gordon Chang, Sidney Powell, Dr. Lana, Chris Martinson, and Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen. Okay? The seats are all one price, $99. We brought the price down because we're saving money bringing it to the Mid-South. So we're passing the savings on to you, but there are only 350 seats. When they're gone, they're gone. But you can live stream it if you're a Vault member. By the way, you can also live stream the event coming up in April at the Waukesha Expo Center on April 15th. Vault members, you'll be able to live stream it. There's advantage to being a member of the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. You get access to 35 years of our content, and you also get to live stream all these special events we're doing. So do check that out, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, check this out, guys. worldviewtube.com/about. I want to make sure you go there. We worked really hard. Our team worked really hard on this. worldviewtube.com/about. Okay? This tells our 35-year history. We are getting so many positive comments about this page. People are like, I didn't realize that you've been doing this kind of thing this long. Oh, yeah, we're not like a lot of these folks who just got a microphone and a camera and started in the last couple of years. Most of them who have never written a book, never written a scholarly research paper. No, they haven't held 300 conferences around the country. They've not been hosting radio and TV and doing documentaries, but for the last 12 to 24 months, which is fine. Everybody's free to join the game. But a lot of these people, they have no scholarship behind them. They have a microphone and a camera and an opinion, but no scholarship. And yet you can look and see what we've been doing for 35 years and who we've been working with in those 35 years. Okay? So this totally sets us apart from most of these people, okay? This is why most of these people that have all these followers on Twitter, all they're doing is retweeting other people's stuff. They don't do their own homework. They don't do their own research. They don't write books. They don't write position papers. They don't regularly write articles. They just simply take other people's work and retweet it. And that's fine. But what separates us from them is we're not out for clickbait. We're not trying to be social media stars. That's not what we're doing. We're a legitimate broadcast network. We're legitimate journalists, authors, producers. And we have a long track record to prove what we've done, who we've worked with, our credibility to talk about these issues from the lens of a Christian worldview and the 6 dominant worldviews that rule the world. Most of these guys out there today don't have a clue about worldviews. And if you don't understand worldview, folks, you're never going to solve the problem. Your worldview is the foundation of your values, and your values is the foundation of your conduct. You have to understand the 6 dominant worldviews ruling the world and how that worldview, be it secular humanism, cosmic humanism, New Age, which is New Age, postmodernism, Islam. You've got to understand how these various 6 dominant worldviews apply to the area of law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion. Because you'll never win the battle for hearts and minds of your children, your grandchildren, or be able to convince your friends and neighbors the error of their ways unless you can refute arguments that are contrary to the Christian worldview. The Bible says to destroy every argument raised up against the principles of the Lord, not the individual. We don't want to destroy individuals. We want to destroy their arguments, right? So they will then come to the side of truth. Well, that means you've got to be a student, right? Which means that takes some time. Well, we've been doing this as students for 35 years. So check it out, folks. worldviewtube.com/about. And then before we go to our next guest, go to worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. After you've been to worldviewtube.com/vault, here's the question you should ask yourself. Is this an organization that has a long track record? Yep. Thus, do they prove that they're going to stay the course? Well, I think after 35 years, we're not going to change course now, right? No, we're not. We are who we are. We're not changing course now, folks. We have no desire. We've proven. We're not interested in putting our finger in the wind and seeing which way it blows and go that direction. Nope. We've been consistently talking about the Christian worldview, its underpinning of our constitutional republic, the problems, the solutions. And if you appreciate that, we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com. You'll find our mailing address there. Folks, I got to have your support to keep it all out. Everyone can watch free of charge. Otherwise, I can put it behind a paywall. Otherwise, I put it behind a paywall. Or I can just load this show up with nonstop commercials for pickup trucks and Jeeps. Trust me, the companies are ready. We know who they are. They are ready and willing to drop in all kinds of commercials and take a commercial break every 10 minutes for 4 or 5 minutes. If you don't want that, and I sure don't want that, I need your support right now, please. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you to those who are supporting us. If you're not, and you can, please consider doing so. Joining me now is Usama Dakdok, Sharam Hadian, and Aaron Lavarco, our reporter on the ground in Israel, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com. I want you to take a look at this screenshot before I go to these guys. This is a radio show I did in August of 2010. We dealt with this for almost an hour today on radio, but I want to give a quick overview for Brandon House Live. This is a radio show from 2010 where I was warning about a guy by the name of Yasser Qadi. He had a mosque right down the road. He was denying the Holocaust. He's a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending, jihadi-preaching imam. He had Siraj Wahhaj speak at his mosque, an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center. Now, you've heard me talk about him many times. But today, social media, all of these clickbait queens out there, and I'm calling that to the guys too, these guys on social media, many of them who've never written even one book, never produced a white paper or documentary, all they do is silly stuff to get clickbait. Maybe they're tweeting out some good stories, but they never have any scholarship behind them. This is why we're losing, folks. We have people that are busy being clickbait kings and queens and that are being entertainers and silly. And when we try to bring stuff up as far back as 15 years ago, we were being ridiculed by even people inside the conservative movement and within Christianity, Christian radio stations. Phil Johnson of John MacArthur's Grace to You. Justin Peters, who said Islam is not a spiritual threat to the church. We have it on video. And yet, today, all of a sudden, people want to retweet out a video by Yasser Qadhi. My friends, for 15 years, we've been warning about Yasser Qadhi and many of his colleagues that are here in the U.S. Of course, Yasser Qadhi is building a 402-acre compound that we have been warning about to implement, really, I think, Sharia by their own description. I want to talk about this with these guys tonight and play a video for you because I believe, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, I'm pretty good at studying the worldviews and the trends. Been doing it since 1990. Many of my predictions in my book in 2005, 1993, 1990, they have come true. I'm giving you another one. America will lose to Islam. Islam is taking down America. The courts, unfortunately, I don't think will let Donald Trump do what needs to be done to clean up America from the enemy within. A group of people that have admitted in their own Muslim explanatory memorandum that they will use ignorant, foolish Americans to bring down America, to destroy America with their own hand. And who is it that was our biggest opposition when we tried to warn about Yasser Qadhi starting in 2010? Christians. I had Christians emailing me, calling me, texting me. How we have to defend the right of the Muslim to build their mosque or it might impact our ability to build churches. That I was wrong in 2010 to be calling for these people to be deported. No, I was told by some Christians and conservatives, you can't deport people that have been here 20 years. If they're here illegally, yeah, you can and you should. And if they're here promoting jihad in Islam, right out of the Quran, yeah, you should. I'm here to warn you tonight, my friends. America is not back. I don't care who says it. We're far from being back. I'm here to tell you, Islam has got such a hold on this country. You better prepare and use this time while Donald Trump's in the White House to defend your Second Amendment and practice it and get ready. Because if the Lord doesn't take the church home soon, Christians, I'm telling you now, what you saw in Israel is coming to America. What you saw on October 7th in Israel is coming to America. We have the radical, progressive, communists already admitting they want to round up and arrest Trump supporters and members of his administration. A few years ago, some of these groups made a map of conservative individuals and organizations and where they live. And I'm telling you now, if you are anywhere near being a vocal conservative or Christian on social media, you don't even have to have a radio show or a TV show or podcast. If you're on social media and you're conservative and you're defending Israel and you're proclaiming your Christian worldview, you better prepare now. Because I'm telling you now, if the Lord does not take the church home soon, we will see door-to-door operations going after Christians and Jews, just like we saw in Israel on October 7th, and just like we see going on in Syria now. Joining me to respond to some of these video clips, now that the Twitter field is finally awakened after 15 years, welcome. Glad you're finally awake 15 years later. Again, the conservative crowd always wakes up, most of them, when it's really too late. And I think, unfortunately, we have let this cancer take root. I don't think the courts will allow it to be cleaned out. Joining me now is Usama Dakdok, Sharam Hadian, and Aaron Lavarco. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being with us on radio today. I wanted to cover this on Brandon House Live. I want each of you to respond. You first, Aaron. Do you think my message to Americans to prepare for the Islamists to knock on their door, for the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist, to start hunting down conservatives, Christians, and Jews in America is a warning that is legitimate? Or is it exaggeration or hype or based on lack of sound reasoning? What's your response tonight based on your experience in Israel, Aaron?
So my response is, it is hype, but it needs to be hype because people need to be shaken. They need to be woken up. They need a blast of a shofar, of a trumpet to wake them out of this numbness. And this is the thing. Islam has infiltrated America. They have numbed people. They've made us drunk with they come in very nice. They come in with good morals. And they infiltrate the democracy in which they come into, and then all of a sudden, when their numbers rise up, they start to use their bullying tactics, which we're seeing. And the moment that you stand against it, you're Islamophobic, and then they twist it and they turn it on you. It's such a deception. So I absolutely think what you're saying is so needed. People need to wake up. As I quoted earlier, 1 Corinthians 14, Paul says, if the sound of the shofar is not blown loud enough, the people will not gather for battle. Luke 22, what did the Lord say to his disciples? He said, go and buy a sword. There is a time that we need to pick up the sword. Now, at the same time, God's word also says, if my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face. So we need to be in prayer, no question about it. That's the Christian thing. But it's also the Christian thing to take a sword when we see danger, when we see threat. And I think it's time that this weak Christianity gets driven out. Otherwise, if you're holding on to that weak Christianity, you're going to get swallowed up because it's coming. I agree. It is coming. As I said earlier, the handwriting is on the wall.
Amen to that. All right, I want to go to this video and then we'll response from Usama and Shahram. This is the video of Yasser Qadhi, the guy I started worrying about in 2010. And then, of course, Usama and Shahram and I got blasted by Phil Johnson, the executive director of Grace to You, John MacArthur's elders and others, and James White, who did an interfaith dialogue in our backyard with this guy, and said he was his mentor in Islam in part, and that the Christians and the Muslims are going to have to stand together when we get attacked by the secularists. And Justin Peters said Islam is no spiritual threat to the church. That came in 2017. Well, that guy is back on the radar. Now today, he's being tweeted all over the place by so-called conservatives that either were too ignorant to know what was going on when we could do something about it, but now all of a sudden are worried. I'm telling you, you're wasting your breath. If you think this guy's compound's going to get shut down and he's going to get moved out, I mean, I hope he does. I hope it happens, but I don't see it happening. If you guys have been paying attention to shows like ours and others that were warning about this guy 15 years ago, you might have had a chance before he built his compound and moved to Texas. But like so often, conservatives, so-called, they're a day late, they're a dollar short. When guys like us warn, oh, we're harsh, we're too tough, we're too reactionary, we're intolerant, we're Islamophobic, whatever. Then 15 years later, hey, guess what? October 7th has happened. Other atrocities in Europe have happened. Hey, guess what? We need to do, and they sound just like we did 15, 20 plus years ago. Why? Because we broke the waves. We cut the water. We made this an acceptable thing to say. But they had to wait till there was a pile of dead bodies to finally get on board. They were some of our biggest critics before that. Well, here he is, all over social media today by all these people that want to tweet and get clickbaits. Watch what Yasser Qadhi said.
President, as you're aware, has carte blanche decided a particular person, a Muslim, a Palestinian, does not have the rights that everybody else does. No court of law, no system, no jury. The president's signature has arrested a legal green card citizen for protesting against Israel and for supporting the rights of the Palestinians. And again, if you feel this is not appropriate, I disagree with you. Because this deals with me and you right here and now. If he's allowed to get away with this, the next is going to be naturalized citizens. How many of you are naturalized citizens? As we speak right now, This case is going to be a litmus test for what follows. The fact of the matter, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but we don't have time for political correctness. The majority of us are disconnected from what is going on. We feel that's not going to affect us. No! History has shown, even the ups and downs of this country have shown, if we don't rally together, if we don't make sure that all of us have the same freedoms, what is happening is blatantly unconstitutional. For 200 years, the Supreme Court has...
Okay, all of a sudden, the guy that preaches Sharia, you can take the property of the Jew and Christian in jihad and all of this other garbage he's preached, all of a sudden, Shahram, he's worried about the Constitution. Give me a break.
Yeah, it's absolutely laughable and ridiculous. And Brandon, as you said, you know, how many years can you warn people? And then when it starts happening and now all of a sudden they're paying attention, the problem is, you're saying it, it's so late. It's so late. And as I said on radio earlier, historically, there's only been two ways you push this back. You either have to fight them once they try to come kill you and subjugate you and kill you, or there has to be a massive awakening and revival of the Church of Jesus Christ to preach the gospel. I don't see either of those happening in America. There's just, the will is not there. The spiritual condition of the church is way too woke and corrupt, and the gospel has been way too corrupted. But Yasser Qadhi claiming that this individual, he's talking about Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia student, who there's still controversy for me because he's saying he's a green card holder. And as I mentioned earlier, that means nothing, because being a person who was, I came to this country under a resident alien or green card and then naturalized after 8 years of waiting after that to then another 7.5 years to become a citizen. I can tell you it's a conditional contract, because you have to agree to abide by the laws of this nation, not call for the destruction of this nation as this individual was doing, as Yasser Qadhi has done, because they are smoking or they're blowing smoke. They're trying to create victimization for themselves, as they have always. And as you said, this is not going to end well for Texas. They're not going to stop this compound because they don't have the backbone to stop the compound, because they keep defending Islam as protected under the First Amendment. It is laughable that you're going to quote the Constitution, Yasser Qadhi, when your very ideology that you espouse is against the Constitution. It should not be accepted in our republic. Islam is incompatible with this republic and any Western society that is living under a religious freedom. And how do you know? Simply look at Europe. Simply look at what has happened in Europe. And now, what is the United Kingdom doing? They are jailing those who are doing what you and I have been doing, Brandon, for all these years, who have criticized Islam, who are warning about the takeover of Europe now. They're warning about the absolute devastation of unvetted Muslim refugees coming into their land, that are raping their young women, that are having these rape gangs and killing every day in Germany, in the UK, in France, in Austria, in the Netherlands, in Sweden and Norway. Every day they're killing Europeans. And what are the governments doing? They're bending over backwards to protect Islam. So I agree with you. We have a constitutional crisis. These judges are so corrupt, and they're going to try to stop Trump from doing what they need to do. Marco Rubio said, our Secretary of State, we're going to keep deporting these people. Amen to that. That's exactly what they need to keep doing.
Amen. And we are in a constitutional crisis when the executive branch that has given powers under our Constitution can't carry out its function without these corrupt judges, many of them who have been corrupted by the NGO money that either they receive or their wives or kids or organizations they're a part of receive. Yep. I mean, these people are so compromised. I want to get a response from Usama, but before I do, here is another video from this, just again, very recent. Okay, Yasser Qadhi, I said on radio today, I'll say it again. Islam is going to bring down America, okay? I wish it weren't true. I hope I'm wrong, but everything that I see says it will be allowed to be the cancer that spreads and spreads and spreads. Where is Greg Abbott in shutting down this Sharia compound? And I think that's exactly what this imam is building. Where is he? He's a lot of talk. Where is he with action? Has he stopped the DHS tents that were built there during the Biden years? Did he secure his border as quickly as he should have? No, I don't think he did. I think he wasted a lot of time. I think he's a politician. I don't fully trust him. I'm sorry. And I now find that Yasser Qadi is thanking all the elected officials in his community and that they got his back. Have you guys seen this? Listen to this.
Yeah. Today we have our annual interfaith iftar dinner. As you're aware, Epic does a interfaith iftar dinner every single Ramadan. And alhamdulillah, this year we had the mayors of Richardson, the mayors of Plano, the city councilmen of Wwiii, the chief of police and the fire, a lot of elected officials. Alhamdulillah, they came and we had a very good interfaith dinner. All of the mayors, actually, all of them, they presented us plaques of recognition for the civic services that Epic is doing. And alhamdulillah, they testified that Epic is doing what no other faith organization in this entire area is doing. You're probably aware that on social media, there's a lot of negative campaigns against our particular masjid, Epic.
All right, let's just stop right there for a minute. The police chiefs, the mayors, they're giving them plaques. They're all on board. Goodbye, America. Sorry to be such a downer tonight, people, but I have been doing this since 1990, warning you about the 6 dominant worldviews that rule the world, including Islam is one of the 6. Usama has been doing it. Sharam has been doing it. Sharam and I had a gunman from Saudi Arabia come into our conference and threaten us on video, and he did 7 months in federal prison, only after we made an international news story out of it. We have all received letters from groups threatening to throw acid on us, all kinds of horrific things. The FBI didn't want to do a thing about it back when that happened. We have all the paperwork to show that. I'm telling you, the mayors in Texas, I thought Texas was this big old don't tread on me kind of state. No, I'm sorry, Texas. I don't know if it's voter fraud or what, but most of your elected officials are a bunch of phony balonies. Look at what they tried to do to your strong Attorney General, Ken Paxton. Look what they tried to do to Ken Paxton, for Pete's sake. These were some of your Republicans down there. I mean, I appreciate Senator Bob and some of these other guys I have on, but they know that those people are the problem, right? If this can happen in Texas, people, it can happen anywhere. Usama, your police chiefs, your mayors of Plano and Richardson, they're giving this guy plaques, a Jew-hating, Holocaust-denying, Hitler-defending, jihadi preaching imam. God help us. Usama?
Yeah. A meal can make a big difference in the stupidity of those leaders we have in this country. I mean, I remember 23 years ago, I was just 1 year old, actually 24 years ago, just few months after September 11, and the Muslim have a Muslim day at the Capitol in Florida. At this time, I was a resident in Florida. So we went to that day, Muslim country, and oh man, they have that great, smell good food, Middle East food is like, wow. And guess what? All our legislators from the Capitol were going down having that good Arab coffee and that food. And boy, oh boy, there's something about that food. I don't know, does he have some magic in the food that you feed the American one meal from the Middle East, from the Muslim world, and they become your buddies for life? What is going on here about these mayors to go have iftar meal with the Muslim of Texas? Obviously, they know how to use taqiyya. That Muslim Imam Yasser Qadi, I would challenge him to bring the same people whom he's feeding a good meal to read few verses from the Quran and few of the saying of Muhammad to them before they have that meal. I would love to see how they're going to enjoy eating and swallowing that poison into their stomach if they know here is what Allah said, here is what Muhammad said about Islam, and please come enjoy an iftar meal with us so we can take over your state, so we can take over your country, so we can kill your men, so we can rape your daughters and your wives, and enjoy dinner together first, by the way. So that is a problem. That is a problem, Brandon. These mayors, these leaders, that governor of Texas, and I don't care who else in the government of the United States of America, if they have not read the Quran, they do not know jack about Imam Yasser Qadi and the rest of the imams in America. Every imam in America knew Islam. Every imam in America understands the teaching and the ideology of Islam. The problem is, we the American people are so ignorant.
Yep.
And how many times, Brandon, we lost a friend? Because he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, well, you only have 4 months to live. Why? Because the cancer is stage 4. There's something about cancer in stage 4. If it's just stage 1 or stage 2, there's always hope. There's always hope for people to be healed from the cancer. But the problem is with our friends who died, they did not go to the doctor until stage 4. Let me say it again. Islam is worse than any cancer. Islam is the deepest cancer. It is like the cancer in the tongue. When people have it, they only have a few months to live. And that is the problem we have in America. Imagine with me, these leaders, our politicians, have been meals with the people who will destroy America.
Yep, absolutely. Logan, see if we can fix his audio. His audio was better today during radio. See if we can get his audio a little clearer. I want to go back to the clip by Yasser Qadi and have Aaron respond. Again, he's listing off all these politicians that are giving him plaques. And yet this dude is hanging out and bringing to his mosque Asaj Wahaj, an unindicted co-conspirator in the bombing of the World Trade Center. I mean, I could go on and on about the people he hangs out with and what he's done in Europe. And yet your leaders in Texas are giving him plaques. I say again, if they cannot put a stop to this in Texas, there's no hope for the rest of the country. Listen to what else he says.
Because of our project, Epic City, right? And a lot of the far right are riling up hatred. Today, an hour ago, I pulled the mayor aside. Pulled him aside. I said, you know, Mayor, you're aware of what's going on. And you know that these are all lies. You know, what they're saying about us is not true. The mayor literally his whole face changed. He goes, I know you guys, don't worry. I have your back. Anybody says anything, you can tell him to call me and I'm going to defend you guys. The mayor himself told me this. I know you guys. I see what you're doing. Anybody has a negative complaint, you tell them to call my office. I'm going to defend you. We are the hub. Even the other faith centers cannot do what we are doing. We thank Allah for this. The bottom line, I'm saying this, why? Because unless and until we take ownership of this society, unless and until we feel that we have to contribute back, we have to show our presence. It doesn't matter if we are 10,000 in Taraweeh, that's between us and Allah. If not a single one of us contributes back to society, the government doesn't know who we are, the politicians don't know who we are. The seerah teaches us that deen and dunya are combined. The seerah teaches us that ibadah and political activism are combined. It's not an either or. Yes, at night we pray tahajjud. Yes, at night we make dua. Yes, we always break for our salawat. But during the day there's activism. During the day you move and shake, you impact, you create a legacy. This is what the seerah teaches us. And again, I do apologize if some of you feel these political talks should not be done. But politics doesn't stop because of Ramadan. As we speak, there's a massive issue taking place that is going to deal with every one of you in this audience. The president, as you're aware, has carte blanche decided a particular...
All right, that's where we picked up earlier. Listen to that, guys. he is saying that the mayor has their back. I know who you guys are. And then he goes on to talk about all the good things they're doing in the community to buy, I guess, political alliance and favors. And these idiots, okay? These idiots. Now, again, I'm from the South, born in Jackson, Mississippi, lived in Washington, D.C. for 8 years, lived in St. Paul for way too long, back here in the Mid-South for 20 years. And I'm telling you, many people in the South are asleep. They're interested in fishing and hunting and sports. You want to have a good turnout for a Worldview weekend talking about this? Don't go to the South. By and large, no. Go to Minneapolis. Go to Milwaukee. Go to where it's so liberal, those people are starving for someone to come and speak the truth. But the Bible Belt, Sharam, seems like a perfect place for Islam to infiltrate. The fact that they choose the South to build this 402-acre compound is amazing. And they're buying their way into the hearts and minds of the dumb, stupid, dumbed-down, and inch-deep, mile-wide politicians who I bet know everything there is to know about sports, but don't know diddly squat about Islam. Sharam?
You're absolutely correct. That has been our experience over and over again. This is why we need to have the training, again, the retraining of law enforcement, the retraining of our elected officials. If there was any hope for America, going back to your point earlier, if there was a pulse in America, and going to Usama's point, I would say Europe right now is in late stage 4 cancer. America is maybe in stage 3 cancer, if I was using his analogy, in my opinion. So if there is a pulse left for America, if there is a treatment option left for America, it is that we have to educate. Because, you know, Brandon, we talk about the verse in Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Oftentimes we forget to read the next verse. The next verse says, because you have rejected knowledge. So why are people lacking knowledge? Because they have chosen willfully to reject knowledge. When people have maligned our ministry, your ministry, Usama's ministry, Aaron's ministry, when people are aligning those who are speaking out very frankly and boldly about these issues and very authentically, and by the way, from sources like here within Islam, Yasser Qadhi, as Usama said, is committing lying. He is committing taqiyya. He is committing perjury in this country because it's permissible. Yasser Qadhi is telling you, look, because of interfaith, right? We've invited these elected officials in. There you go, James White. There you go, Justin Peters. There you go, Phil Johnson. This is thanks to you. The demise of America is squarely on your head. The Lord will hold you to account for you being the one to attack us when we were trying to warn about this 7-8 years ago, and normalizing and uplifting and giving a platform to Yasser Qadhi, who is now telling you we're going to take over. What did he say? We need to be the predominant voice. We need to take over. Didn't he say that? Yep. He actually said that. We need to take over this country. That's what he said. It's their words. And so these are useful idiots, and we need to have prayer that somehow, if we can get these elected officials, if we can get law enforcement in front of good people like my friend David Borres, other former law enforcement who are doing training to help law enforcement elected officials understand what Islam is and who the Muslim Brotherhood are, that's the only chance that I think we even have slightly.
If you would go on the street and ask the average American who is Muslim Brotherhood, they wouldn't have a clue. There are still people in America that don't fully know what October 7th was all about if you go on the street. Right. Aaron, how many Israelis, if you go on the street and ask Israelis, who is Muslim Brotherhood? What would they say? What would the average Israeli say? And do they understand the connection between Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas?
Oh, I would say pretty much every adult knows very well who the Muslim Brotherhood is, and they would immediately associate them with groups like Hamas. And
why? Okay, great. That's good. That's what I wanted to hear. But why, Aaron? What has it taken for your countrymen to know who Muslim Brotherhood is and that they're tied to Hamas? Because I promise you, you ask the average man and the woman on the street in America, Muslim Brotherhood, they won't know what you're talking about. If you ask them about Hamas, they won't know what you're talking about. The connection between Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas, they won't know what you're talking about. How is it your people know this, Aaron?
Well, I'm sad to say the reason why we know about it, Brandon, is because we've spilled a lot of blood.
Right. There you go.
And that has been the cost of our education. And, you know, Shaham, what you were saying, that second part of Hosea 4:6, wow, you hit the nail on the head, because not just my people are lack of knowledge, but they've rejected knowledge. You know, it reminded me of when Nebuchadnezzar came to attack Jerusalem, and the king of Judah was a man called Hezekiah, and he opened up the treasures of the temple. And he said, you know, shall we not have peace in our time? Remember Neville Chamberlain. Remember when he came back from meeting with Adolf Hitler? He said the same, we will have peace in our time, these peace-loving people. And like you said also, Shaham, about the American people's, their pulse. And, I think in the same way that Hezekiah opened up those treasures, which is our soul, the treasures of the temple was our heart and soul inside of God's house. And he opened them up to a foreign ruler. And I see this man that was speaking, this
Yasser
Muslim. Yes, what a sheep what a wolf in sheep's clothing he is. Very, very nice spoken, very, very calm. But I'm glad that I wasn't the only one that heard him say, we need to take over society. He made it clear.
Yep, he did. Yeah. And I want you to look at this real quick. This is something we've talked about, but here's another example. You will never understand. I showed this on radio today, but the primetime audience needs to hear it. You will never understand this conflict without understanding that on October 4th, 2023, women from the kibbutz attended a peace conference for Israeli-Palestinian women. And on October 7th, Hamas reportedly used the 10D list to hunt down these women and murder them. Folks, this is how good interfaith dialogue and kumbaya with the Islamist Muslim Brotherhood works. They killed them. And Aaron, I asked you today, why? These were the people that were, one person says, I can confirm that these were some of the people that were going to Gaza and taking the children to the hospitals, waiting for them to have treatment and then driving them home, and yet they were the ones targeted. I want you to tell the primetime audience, Aaron, why did Hamas target these Jews that were doing social justice and interfaith dialogue and pleading their case of a two-state solution? Why did they target them and kill them first?
Because, Brennan, a predator will look for the weak link in its prey. It will try to smell out, it will try to find the weakness, whether it's its back, whether it's its neck. That's what a predator will do. And that's exactly what Hamas did. They looked at our niceness, our genuinely good, loving, kind, peacenik, left-wing people, and they betrayed them, but they infiltrated them. They became predators, and that's the thing I see in Christianity as well. You know, it's good to be loving. It's good to be people of prayer. It's good to turn the other cheek. There's a time to do all of that, but there's also a time, as I quoted Luke 22, the Lord said, "Go and buy a sword." We cannot let our strength, which is love, the greatest is love, we cannot let our strength become our weakness. And sadly, that is where our enemies are exploiting the church and America.
Amen.
That's it.
Listen to a little bit more of Yasser before we wrap it up. Here we go.
This case is going to be a litmus test for what follows. The fact of the matter, and I'm sorry to be blunt, but we don't have time for political correctness. The majority of us are disconnected from what is going on. We feel that's not going to affect us. No, history has shown, even the ups and downs of this country have shown, if we don't rally together, if we don't make sure that all of us have the same freedoms, what is happening is blatantly unconstitutional. For 200 years, the Supreme Court has ruled that a green card holder has the same rights as an American citizen. Now that is being challenged, and unilaterally, what makes the West is the right of habeas corpus, which means no politician, no government official has the right to declare you to be a criminal without a trial. That is the cornerstone of Western society. Not like tyrannical regimes, not like back home, if the royal family doesn't like you, you get disappeared. The cornerstone of this Western society is the right for a fair trial. Make sure your evidence is heard. No politician has the right to decide you're a criminal, throw you in jail. The person's wife, they're both fasting. He was picked up without any protocol, without any advance notice. His wife, who's 9 months pregnant, she's about to deliver in the month of Ramadan. She had no idea where her husband is. This should not happen in this country. And if you don't understand where this is heading, and if you think it has nothing to do with me and you, then I'm sorry, you are deluded. And this is why, going back to our local, politics is all local. Our impact is all local. Why do you think the mayor of Plano, the mayor of Richardson, the mayor of Wwiii, they all respect and know us? Why do you think the officials come here? Because alhamdulillah, we have been active by Allah's help and then by your donations. And we're going to continue to rally for...
Whoa! We have been active by your donations. They've been spreading around the money, is what that sounds like to me, Shahram.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They've been active by their donations. And let's not forget, Brandon, that this project that they're working on, thanks to the help of all these local mayors that have given them green lit this epic city. Again, the East Plano Islamic Center is the name of this. And by the way, again, this is their terminology they're using for all these cities in Patterson, New Jersey, Brandon, you mentioned, here in Josephine, Texas, in Lino Lakes, Minnesota. They are calling them Muslim-centric cities. That seems like a violation of the First Amendment to me, but because if they're getting in this situation with Epic, they are allowing people to use their down payment when they're buying one of these houses. The money is going to the mosque because the mosque is building everything. So the money goes to the mosque. So your down payment is now tax deductible. That sounds like a fraud to me, because you and I, when we bought our houses with our down payment, that money is not a charitable donation, but the Muslim gets a charitable donation because they're funneling it through the mosque. Woo. And now, according to Yasser Qadi, the mosque is using that money to do what? Propagate Islam upon the whole country.
And you notice he also is worried about the cornerstone of Western society. Usama, these guys want to tear down our Western society and culture and constitution, and now they're going to use it to defend their building of a Sharia compound, are they not?
Absolutely, Brandon. It's amazing. For years and years, Muslim imams, like Yasser Qadi said, Islam is religion, it is not politics. And now we hear that, oh, we cannot separate Islam from politics. And how is that? We're going to use the U.S. Constitution to take over America. Brandon, here's the problem. The level of hatred of Muslims to all non-Muslims is beyond measure. The only way for Muslims to have the victory for Allah is to wipe out every other belief, every other doctrine, every other religion. The hatred among Muslims with other Muslims is even worse. I mean, look what's happening in Syria right now when Ahmed Julani is killing the people of the Alawi and the Shiite and the Christians. This is many alarms coming to us. The Lord is blessing us in America with this great miracle of technology that we can see what Muslims are doing to Muslims, and we can hear Imam Yasser Qadi tell us about here's their plan for that city, and here's their plan for this country, and they're going to speak out loud. Brandon, we must wake up. We're running out of time. Allah taught the Muslims to kill the Jews and to kill the Christians. We as a nation of Jews and Christians, the constitution of this country is built on Judeo-Christian beliefs and doctrine and theology, and that's why they're here. They're not here because they love us. They're not here because they like our democracy. And it's time for us to figure out. Here's what Muslims believe. Here's what our Constitution teaches. Therefore, the peaceful gathering will never be in a mosque. This is amendment we believe in and we stand for. Muslims are using it to build a mosque so they can have freedom of religion. There is no freedom of religion in Islam. You leave Islam, we'll kill you. You will not accept Islam in the near future when we have the upper hand. We will kill you. I mean, how much flags we need, how many big red flags we need in this country to wake up, to realize that Imam Yasser Qadi is like every other Imam. Shame on us to allow Imam Yasser Qadi to come to America. Shame on us.
And he has bought off apparently he has bought off the police chiefs, the mayors, government officials, and let's see what the governor of Texas does. I would venture to guess the governor of Texas is a hot windbag that does nothing like most politicians. Closing comment, Aaron.
Sure. You know, Brandon, that one positive thing I see about the Muslims, the radical Muslims, they're dedicated. They're protected from the ways of the world, from materialism, so that they can be dedicated. If you go back to the times of a group of Jews called the Maccabees, they saw what the Greeks, how it infiltrated and it weakened the Jewish community. But this group of Maccabees, and later on the next generation, the Zealots, they rose up. They were dedicated. It was guerrilla warfare. We may need to resort to something like that if our government, if our police, if our authorities aren't doing the right work. Just like the divided kingdom in Israel, there was the split kingdom. It may mean that there might be a split somewhere that's needed. I know so many people, good believers in Texas, not the liberal ones in Texas, but good, strong believers. It may take something like that, for like even the Crusaders, to rise up, something radical. If our people in authority aren't doing the job, something's got to happen. And you Americans should be thankful for this administration. They're doing a lot of good stuff. A lot more needs to be done, but they're doing some good stuff.
Great point to close on, and that's what I was going to close on. We need to be praying for President Trump, and the pastors of America, the churches of America need to be calling the White House, thanking him. You need to be leaving the churches where the pastors do not support what he's doing. Those guys are hirelings and they're traitors. They're working for Satan, which is Allah. If your pastor does not agree with what we're saying today, leave that church. You are sitting under a guy that is being used as a tool of Satan. American Christians, this is your moment. You have a guy in the White House that is trying to save the republic from the red-green axis. And President Trump deports brown doctor Rasha Alawi over links to Hezbollah and a slain leader. This is what we need. We need more of it. And I think Yasser Qadi should be deported and all of those that support him. That's my opinion. Yasser Qadi, you're welcome live on the show, but I know you're too much of a coward, in my opinion, to come on. All right? So there you go. Americans, you better be praying for President Trump and thanking him, because the window is closing. And frankly, I think it's too late, but we'll at least try till the fat lady sings, as they say. Usama, tillministry.com, TLLministry.com. Sharam Usama is thestraightway.org. And then Aaron Lavarco, lighttothenationsministry.com. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us.
Pleasure, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Before we continue, oh, look at that. Perfect timing. Here comes my beautiful wife. Hello, baby. Bringing me my Gatatana. She wants me to live a long time. And Dolly loves the Gatatana. She gets some every morning, don't you, Dolly? You get a half a scoop on your food every morning. I get a scoop in water, oftentimes here at the desk, because this is where my energy starts to drag a little bit. We also want everybody to see that we really do take this. You take it in the morning, right? Do you? You do. You do. You take it. And by the way, she's on vegan food now. She was on her puppy food. She's 10 months old now, are you? Yeah, you're 10 months old. And she was on puppy food, Red Diamond. I thought it was the healthiest puppy food I could find. And now she's on a vegan food. I'm never going vegan, I'll tell you that. But this food we checked out and researched backwards and forwards, because we want this dog to live a long time. Logan, your girlfriend's got like a dog that's like 17, right? Or 20? Her parents have a dog. How old is it? 20? Almost 20. Man, can you imagine? You know, they say, Dolly, that the dog labs in the 70s used to be like 17 years old. My oldest lab has been 10. One that lived to be 4, she had seizures. One that lived to be 8.5, she had cancer. So we're trying to stop that, which is why we're giving you Gatatana. And now we're going to get you this super healthy food that is, what do you call it? A vegan. So anyway, there you go. All right, so go to melissahousegpa.com. One scoop is the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells, Dolly. 90 billion, one scoop. You got to have a scoop, I got a whole scoop. And it also has lots of trace minerals in it, and those trace minerals are really good for the fur babies, all right? And then it's got all kinds of other amino acids and very, very important. What do you got under there? What do you got tonight? What do you got? You're always grabbing, oh, you got a water bottle. Is it empty or full? I can't tell. She loves to play with water. All my labs love water bottles for some reason. But anyway, back to the Gatatana. Loaded with all kinds of vitamins, folks. So go to melissahousegpa.com. Get a subscription. Remember the guy that was, he came up with it? I love this guy's story. They're like, dude, you got a few months to live, tops. And he was raising phytoplankton for shellfish and stuff. So he's like, what do I got to lose? So he started eating it right out of the tanks. He started scooping it up in his fingers and eating it. And she said, I still walk into the office, get choked up. Dad is still here. So after you've only got a few months to live. He goes on to live another 10 years. What was in the Daily News up in Canada on July 5. Tom Harper. We played his own testimony that you'll find out there on YouTube. So there you go. This is how this company was built, because Dave Hunter started working with him, and this is how Global Plankton Alliance came about. You can get a subscription, and I highly recommend you do, at melissahousega.com. You want to go to a dolly cam on this? I don't know what's going on over there. Oh. She's down in the floor on the logo, I thought. I can hear her chewing on a water bottle or something. Hopefully she hasn't busted a water bottle. Well, now she's camera shy. There she is. Well, I finished Plankton. Hang on, folks. Dolly, what are you doing? That actually has water in it. She's gonna short out the whole studio. Right on. All right, we can come back to me. This is my show, Dolly, not yours. So go there to melissahousegpa.com, get your Plankton, get a subscription, folks. And by the way, there are a bunch of clinical trials behind this as well. Okay, bunch of clinical trials behind this. melissahousegpa.com. Okay. All right, I finished that off. There we go. Let me set that aside. Dolly, you need to run on so I can get ready for my next guest, so I can concentrate for you. Make me forget what we're doing here. Oh, let's see. Is there anything else I need to tell you about? I think that does it. All right, there you go. Joining me now is Tom Littleton. We refer to him as our religious Trojan horse reporter. That's the name of my 2011 book. And I said, Tom, since you've been doing this same thing for so many years, looking at the religious Trojan horse, why don't we just make you our religious Trojan horse reporter? Anytime you see something that you think fits into that category, come on board. He's seen one. Here it is tonight on his website, 30piecesofsilver.org. Warning, Christian media, put quotes around that, unfit for consumption. Alasky joins Russell Moore at Christianity Today and globalist WEA entrenched at Christian Post. Christianity Today is a magazine, for those who don't know. Been around for many, many, many decades. We took about 20 years ago to starting to call it Christianity Astray instead of Christianity Today. Joining me now is Tom Littleton. Tom, welcome to the broadcast again. Thanks for being with us.
Good to be with you. I appreciate you covering this. Appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing and the growth with the network, and also all those archives. I've enjoyed what you've dug out and digitalized and put on the website. It's really amazing.
Thank you, Tom. We have more. We found more from the 90s. We're going to pull out here. Boy, Christian media unfit for consumption. Alasky. Would that be Marvin Alasky, the one that used to work with World Magazine, which is a magazine that went into the dumpster, in my opinion, a long time ago. They got upset with us a few years ago, wouldn't take our advertising. I still have the file on it because we were criticizing Rick Warren. They wouldn't take my advertising.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised. Actually, in 2021, Alasky met much of the same fate at World that Russell Moore did in the Southern Baptist ERLC, Ethics and Religious Liberties Commission. He was called to account for his anti-Trump narrative because it was so unpopular with their readership. And now these editors are out of touch, and they are political operatives, ideologues. So they've had this big anti-Trump narrative, and that got Moore in trouble over at the ERLC. And then in 2021, it actually garnered a no confidence vote from the publishers of World Magazine. I don't necessarily think it was conviction on the part of the publishers as it was marketing. And Alasky and another group of people, the more progressive voices, left World Magazine. So he's kind of been around. He's been writing for New York Times. He teaches at Patrick Henry College and several other gigs. But he's a former communist. But as you recall, you and I have shown this guy interviewing people like Ann Campaign's co-founder Justin Giboney, using critical theories and promoting BLM and Marxist revolutionaries in our streets and in our churches. And so I'm not sure how a former communist saved out of that belief system is able to be so blind to them flooding into the church. But in Marvin Olasky's case, that has certainly been the issue. So Russell Moore tweeted out back at the end of the year that he is thrilled to welcome the legendary Marvin Olasky to our team here at Christianity Today magazine. And I have to confess, and you can hold me accountable for this because I'm saying it, he's one of the most rodent-like looking people that I have ever seen. But that's neither on him or his, it can't help it, I guess. That's the best thing I'll say. But it's not so much his look as it is his impressive bio that he is not living up to as a conservative journalist. And so it's no surprise that the guy, he leaves World Magazine. He's a Presbyterian Church in America elder. He taught at the University of Texas in Austin. And supposedly a real heavyweight journalist, as he's being called legendary by Russell Moore. The problem is he's a committed anti-Trumper, and he is supposedly one of the leading journalists in the Christian journalistic circles. But he finds a home with Russell Moore, who is also an avid anti-Trumper. Now, these are progressive outlets. Christianity Today, in particular, as you pointed out, World Magazine had become very progressive. This is him with Justin Giboney, the Ann Campaign founder. That's a Democratic Party operative, a Hillary and Obama delegate, if you recall.
We need to make sure people remember there. He's an Obama and Hillary delegate. The AND campaign that we covered like in 2000, I don't know, 17, 18, something in there. Yep. And the AND campaign was social justice and. That was the and. So
biblical values.
Yeah. Social justice and. So socialism and biblical values. Talk about your. Right. That's why I had my book in 2018, Marxianity, and these guys were, proving we want socialism and biblical Christianity, which gives you Marxianity. And Marvin Olasky of World Magazine at in Patrick Henry College fame, here he is. And we played that back in 2018. And what we're warning about is these people have infiltrated the Republican Party. They have infiltrated mainstream Protestant evangelicalism. They hate everything that Donald Trump is doing. They're never Trumpers. And this is what we've been warning about. No wonder so many of your church pastors in America are not supporting President Trump as he's trying to clean up America, get rid of these Islamists, kick these would-be Islamist and pro-Islamist, pro-Hamas people out of the country. And as I've already said tonight, if your pastor isn't supporting Donald Trump and trying to get these Islamists out of the country, you have a hireling, not a pastor, and you should leave that church. Would you agree?
Oh, I absolutely agree. And see, these guys have been heavily influenced by both Russell Moore and Marvin Olasky and one of their friends and mentors, Al Mohler. And so these guys, your pastor's likely gotten a big dose of this kind of Marxianity while he was in seminary, if he's graduated in the last 15 years. And so these guys are very acquainted with and accustomed and comfortable with this whole narrative. Honestly, if you want to put this anti-Trump movement in perspective, they want you to ultimately conclude that MAGA is anti-American. Think about that. That MAGA, Make America Great Again, the Trump brand that has unified more people in America than anything since the Reagan era, probably more so than the Reagan era at such a divided time. People have rallied around MAGA from both sides and are saying, we need to save our country. We need to make America great again. And these anti-Trumpers like Moore and Olasky would have you to believe that that is anti-American. That's the narrative. And on the other side now, Al Mohler who is Moore's mentor, who who was his employer and educator for 24 years. That's an old picture from back in the early 90s of the two of them, Mueller on the right, Moore on the left. He's a tiny little guy. They've been working together for over 3 decades. And Moore, supposedly, he's gone to the Progressive Christianity Today and left the SBC, but Mueller's still the head of Southern Baptist Seminary, where they both were for so many years. And now Mueller has gone to World Magazine with Andrew Walker, who is one of Moore's disciples from the ERLC, and they are operating the World Opinions page and department that has started to address the world issues and political issues of the day. So ironically, both sides, this supposedly conservative World Magazine now hires the mentor of the most progressive voice in the Southern Baptist Convention, and he's supposed to be the new conservative. And what are they ultimately promoting? Mueller and a little group of boutique outlets, underlings like the Center for Baptist Leadership, some of those that are run by Moore's people, or Mueller's people rather, they are running Christian nationalism as the narrative. And they're supposedly appealing to conservatives by promoting Christian nationalism. The problem here is we have already reported that Christian nationalism is a trap. It's an identity politic that is going to vilify Christians, hinder the gospel, and even be used to attach to MAGA and help vilify MAGA. So on the one hand, you have these group of people, Moore and Mulaski, vilifying MAGA from an anti-Trump perspective. The others pushing Christian nationalism, attaching it to MAGA, and pushing everybody into confusion and to basically being reoriented away from their conservative biblical values.
And by the way, I want to tell our audience, I see if you agree with me. I've been telling people for some time. People say if the charge is I'm a Christian nationalist, then I've heard someone say if the charge is Christian nationalist, then I say guilty, and I say no. Don't fall into that trap. They want you to say that because they're going to compare Christian nationalism to that of the fascist regime of Adolf Hitler, right? So you don't want to fall into that trap. Why help them? What you need to say is, I am for a constitutional republic. I'm a Christian. I'm a Bible-believing Christian who's for a constitutional republic. That sums it all up. Don't fall into being, I'm a Christian nationalist, because they're going to, again, try to paint you as a kind of neo-Nazi-like, a fascist and a hater. And you don't want to fall into the narrative that they're laying out for you. Would you agree?
I would absolutely agree. And the more they build this brand, and unfortunately, Calvinist, neo-Calvinists within the Southern Baptist Convention and then the Presbyterian Church in America, a lot of these younger guys who are still considering themselves theological conservatives are embracing this Christian nationalist identity, not realizing how fringe and extreme it will become. Christian Post actually just did a story on a Texas pastor, this Welborn guy that we have covered, and he's saying that only Christians are fit for politics in America. That only America belongs to Christians, so only Christians should be in politics. Well, that kind of divisive narrative is just playing up it's going to hurt the gospel, but it plays up the whole political narrative to say they just want to take over our country, and these people want to tell us how to live, and they want to institute, a church-run government or church-run state. And I'm not sure any of these guys really see that as possible, but, they can grab headlines when they're promoting this kind of stuff. If you look at it, though, from this demographic or this dynamic, you have anti-Trump versus Christian nationalism, and they're not really leaving anything else available for people. So they're forcing people into one of these two camps. And both of those camps are very problematic. But the people who are running these circles all came out of the same pit. They've all come out of the same progressive pit that has ruined our denominations, our missions departments, tainted our pulpits, ruined our seminaries, and has been forcing critical theories and whatnot into the church.
I want to make sure our audience understands what you just said. The progressives are the ones running the anti-Trump coalition, and they're the ones running the Christian nationalist coalition. And you're saying both of them are going to the same direction, which is to paint Christians in such a divisive way that the bulk of the culture rejects them. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, yes, and that they can eventually, from both sides, attacking MAGA and then also tagging Christian nationalism onto MAGA can collapse that brand and scatter the base. They want to get rid of this, unified base that Trump has. I mean, he is really a phenomenon that he has garnered this type of broad support. So they're attacking it from both sides to vilify it. And then, of course, what's happening at Christian Post is a good picture of what they want to emerge from this. They would like to emerge from it a brand of global Christianity that doesn't value the Constitution, doesn't value America, doesn't value free speech and political or biblical conservatism, but is basically a Marxianity that feeds itself into the political system that is arising on the left. Because seriously, Christian Post, we know, has been run for years by Council on Foreign Relations and the
Richard Land.
World Economic Forum guy, and that is Richard Land. Now, the World Evangelical Alliance has fully embraced the work of the Agenda 2030 and the United Nations. And we show that in the article. We give great details on their Agenda 2030 commitment to UN Sustainable Development Goals. So Richard Land is still the executive editor, but in 2018, he chose a leader, Dr. Christopher Chow, to come into from World Evangelical Alliance to head Christian Post. So we have a vowed globalist from a very tainted Christian organization, World Evangelical Alliance, now running the Christian Post. And the reason I'm focusing on these are three of the most influential publications in Christianity right now. I'm talking about
Christianity Today, World Magazine, and the Christian Post. And they're all three being run by basically these neo-evangelicals, correct?
Right. So what they're pushing is confusion. They're pushing identity politics. They're pushing a very false narrative about Trump and about MAGA. You know, they try to shame evangelicals for their support of Trump. And then they're really driving Christians toward the global community, toward an identity as a global citizen. They're corrupting our seminaries and our pulpits with this stuff. And so that's why I conclude that this stuff is unfit for consumption. I've been telling Christians for a while, my friends, you need to stop being a Christian consumer. You need to get more, you get out of the mainstream, and you need to get more selective about where you get your news, where you get your information, and not get this tainted stuff that's going to be warping your worldview, or even worse, warping your view of Scripture. We should not subject the Word of God to these political operatives. We should subject them to the Word of God. And that's why your network and the work that you guys are doing is so critical, because we need the unvarnished truth. We need the facts. People need to be making up their own minds and shaping their own values through the Word of God and getting their news from sources that give them the facts and are not trying to manipulate them.
I think it was Lennon who said, how do you handle your opposition? You co-opt it.
Yeah, you're it. You control it. You own it.
And that's exactly what I think is going on here, which is why, again, I wrote the book in 2011, Religious Trojan Horse, 2016, Religious Reich, 2018, Marxianity. You and I met sometime around 2017, right?
Right. Right.
And our research, we didn't know each other. Our research confirmed each other, and we both saw it independently of each other. We didn't influence each other's research because we didn't know each other. I wasn't reading Tom. I don't think Tom was reading me. And then when we met and found out, hey, we've been writing and saying the same things. So, you know, and there you go. That's why we wanted to make him our religious Trojan horse reporter. It's all there. Warning, Christian media, so-called, unfit for consumption. Alasky joins Russell Moore at Christianity Today and globalist WEA entrenched at Christian Post. Well, no wonder World Magazine, after they took our advertising for years and years and years, all of a sudden sent me an email and said because of my criticism of Rick Warren, they wouldn't let me advertise with them anymore.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. And you know, and Christian Post has and Christianity Today have both made stars out of guys like Rick Warren. They've helped promote the faith-based partnerships, which, if you recall, Alasky was key in developing the W. Bush ideology of compassionate conservatism that gave birth to the faith-based partnerships. And that's where a lot of this stuff has been promoted and a lot of the pressure is coming from. But
indeed.
If you look at this, it's just a very tight circle of disciples and mentors and very close friends who are pushing this whole narrative in the mainstream Christian media. Folks need to turn this stuff off.
And it shows you how powerful the church is, they believe, how powerful the church is, so it needs to be co-opted. They need to co-opt the church. And again, that's what the world government and the coming New World Order, as they call it, will be about. Politics, economics, and religion. So they need to build that harlot church. And of course, the neo-Calvinist, Al Mohler is a neo-Calvinist. Russell Moore is a neo-Calvinist. So these guys are without a doubt building this ecumenical one world church. I mean, I've exposed these guys for years. There's nothing Bible about these guys. I don't care what you hear on radio. I think Al Mohler is great at putting out stuff on traditional Christian radio that a lot of the older people say, oh, that's great. Let me write him a check. Well, I'm like, you realize he's playing you as a fool, right? I think he's totally playing you as a fool. He says what you want to hear on traditional Christian radio in his commentaries, so you will give him your money. But then he goes on and writes these books, holds these conferences, mentors these people, and helps get them into positions that are completely antithetical to what he's been saying on radio. So he's playing the older conservative crowd like fools. True or false?
Well, absolutely believe it. And that's can you imagine making a living as that level of a deceiver? I mean, what a distasteful thing. But these guys certainly have the stomach for it, because that's what some of them, like Al, have been doing apparently for their entire career. Mm-hmm. But it does. Sadly,
only a few people have the truth to tell him what they really think of him. I think your wife is one of the few people that has had the guts to tell him within earshot what she really thinks of him.
Yeah, that was a really funny night. We had dinner with him, and she said he was a useless, pompous, and used a little off-color term, but it was very descriptive.
Well, you know what? You know what? I don't care if you say it, because you know it's true. She called it. I think she called him a useless, pompous what?
Ass.
Yeah.
So that was it. But you know, the sad thing is, it does show, as you said, that these guys have identified that the church is a very important piece of need for their focus. It's a very important piece of the backbone of conservatism, of MAGA, of the Constitution, of people who are true patriots who want to preserve this country. And that's why we're the target of this kind of an elaborate operation and hoax, basically, that they're calling Christian media.
Indeed. There you go. Get it at 30 pieces of silver. Warning, the so-called Christian media unfit for consumption, by our religious Trojan horse reporter, Tom Littleton. 30piecesofsilver.org. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, man. You guys have a good night.
You too, my friends. Tom Littleton check out his site, won't you? 30piecesofsilver.org. All right, folks, before we go, don't forget, get your free business cards, a pack of 20. absolutely free of charge at worldviewstore.com. We've now sent out over 7,000 of these, over 7,000. Worldviewstore.com. Give them to your family and friends. Carry them in your pocket, guys. Ladies, put them in your handbag. You run into someone maybe you don't even know that well, or maybe you don't know them at all. You just start up a conversation with them at a restaurant, or your waiter or your waitress, or maybe you're someone that cuts your hair. Eventually, guys, you probably know that person. And you say, hey, I think you might enjoy listening to this. Give it a shot. Ask them this. Hey, would you listen to this network off and on for 30 days? See if it doesn't change your understanding of the world. See if you're not better informed. Get the 20-pack of free business cards, worldviewstore.com. Roll it. Let's call it a night. Again, guys, don't forget, we're coming to Milwaukee, April 15th. It's a Tuesday night, April 15th. It's free, but you got to get your tickets. We got over 900 tickets now gone. Free, but you got to get tickets. Worldviewtube.com/events. Worldviewtube.com/events. Hey, if you're a Vault member, you'll be able to live stream it. You can live stream it if you're a Vault member. You can join the Vault at worldviewtube.com/vault. Worldviewtube.com/vault. Hey, thanks for watching. Till next time at Brandon House, may God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
And welcome. Glad you were with us on this March 17th, 2025. We're going to be joined by Usama Dakdok, Sharam Hadian, and our reporter on the ground, Aaron Lavarco in Israel. Lots of news to catch up with from over the weekend. Perhaps one of the biggest stories today, right off the bat, is President Trump has declared that many of Joe Biden's pardons are null and void, as they were done by an auto pen. And there is apparently no documentation to show that he was being briefed along the way and even knew anything about it. So Liz Cheney and many others are subject to investigation at the highest levels, says President Trump out on Truth Social today. Of course, the big news also over the weekend was the strikes by the Iranian-backed Houthis by President Donald Trump. He took a round of golf and then went in to what would be his Mar-a-Lago situation room, apparently, in his golf attire to see the progress being made. I saw someone tweeted, that's exactly what I voted for, as a guy that would go do a round of golf and then check in on the airstrikes on Iranian terrorists. So there you go. So much to get to. We're going to do it as quickly as we can. But let's go first of all to to Usama and Sharam. You guys will remember we have been warning about Yasser Qadi. He's now in Texas. He did lead the mosque as the imam right up the road from where I'm sitting. In fact, I went back today to look online to see how long have I been warning people about Yasser Qadi. And if you go into our archive, you'll see that I've been warning about Yasser Qadi. The first show I could find was August 11th, 2010. August 11th, 2010. So it's now 2025. That means I've been warning about Yasser Qadi for 15 years. Let me welcome all of those on social media that are now talking about Yasser Qadi. You're 15 years late, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. But this really shows us, as I get so frustrated with the people on our side, they are almost always a day late and a dollar short. They're so busy chasing the latest trend or news story. Now, we don't do that. That's why we're so far ahead of the curve, oftentimes by years, because we don't look at what everybody else is doing, because generally that's probably old news. So many people say to my wife, who handles customer support and donor relations, your network